Well, good afternoon everyone, and welcome. My name's Eric Martin. I'm currently the chairman of Good Neighbours, and I formally welcome you, and I hope you have a very enjoyable afternoon as we celebrate our Golden Jubilee. I hope you've seen we've got quite a busy programme this afternoon, so it's time we got started, or in football terms, time we kicked off. So we're very pleased or delighted that Graham Taylor's here this afternoon to open the event for us. As you know, Graham was a resident in the village here, and I'm relieved to say that while he was here, he wasn't infirm enough to need our services. And when we think about him becoming a volunteer with us, we understand he was quite busy, so didn't have a great deal of spare time. But when we approached him about coming this afternoon, he immediately agreed, and we're very pleased that he did. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Graham Taylor if he'd formally open this event for us. Graham, thank you. Would you like the mic? Yes,
thank you. Well, thank you very much. This event is open. Say a bit more, do you? Now, I have to say this, that when I did get, or we got the invitation, my wife Rita and myself, it was something that just appealed to me straight away. And in one respect, you know, I'm not in any shape or form trying to be offensive, but we had lived in Kings Langley on 2 occasions. The first time was at the top of Common Lane, and the second time was at the bottom of Common Lane, where you just turn right and there's that little group of cottages. And we lived in the far cottage, the furthest cottage, and I say lived in it, it really was a second home for us, because we had a home in the Midlands, which we are now in there, because as a football manager, I always believed that the football manager should live in the area of the club that he's managing. That doesn't always happen now, they live all over the place and what have you, but I always believed that. So we have had, in fact, 2 stages of living in Kings Langley. And I'm going to take full advantage. I think she'll get told off by my wife, but it won't be the first time. I'm going to take full advantage of just letting you people know that we are looking to come back and, should I say, finish our lives. But we're looking to come back to live in Kings Langley again. We enjoyed it so much, but that is in fact now what we've done. The reason we moved, people have asked me and I've just answered, is that I always felt that as a football manager, as I've said, that you should live in the area where your supporters live. And basically, when I went to Aston Villa for the things, then we moved back to the Midlands. But having said that, our spells in Kings Langley itself are something that we've always enjoyed, always felt very settled, always sort of recognised that it still has that village effect. For me, it does offer us, should I say, still has that village effect where people sort of do know one another, do look after one another, and yet in those 2 occasions we lived, I'd never heard of this, never heard of you, and I only assume that that's because, thankfully, we didn't need you. Thankfully. I don't mean to be rude by saying that, but at least what I think I ought to do. So when the invitation came, both of us were very interested in terms of what are you doing, how's it going about. Yes, because for me, it's about community, isn't it? You know, when we think about it without being stupid or silly, we're people, we should look after one another. You could argue a lot of times, yes, people have fallouts and what have you, but I mean, in terms of not being conscious and aware of one another and wanting in many respects to be helpful to people, if we don't have some of that or all of it in our makeup, then it's not really very nice. And I think that there should be a respect for people, irrespective of sort of what your job has been. Mine's football manager, so I always have a lot of people talking to me. They call me an ex-England manager, which I really dislike because I look upon ex as being dead. I wish they'd call me the former England manager. You know what I mean? But you get all of those things, you learn, and you have neighbours, and you get to meet people. And, you know, when we all pass away, as we also do, if you've wasted an opportunity to be relaxed, to be friendly, to know one another, to help one another, to get on with one another, I'm not so certain that you've lived the life that we all would like to live. And I congratulate every one of you for in fact doing what you do. I really do. When I say appreciate, it is first class, because that's what human nature should be about. What you are doing is so, in my view, so correct and so right and so proper. And then looking round at you and knowing what you're doing, that's why I want to come back to King's Langley. Because I'm getting older. But it is really, you know, it really is very, very kind of you to invite. It's very, very good to get to know about you, to get to know about the organisation, to get to know that people do care, that there are people there who are less, to help those people who are less fortunate than ourselves. And so, in respect of, so I congratulate every one of you. And as I said, it would have been easy for me to have written back and said, I'm sorry, I've got something else on, I can't do it. But I didn't know about you. And I thought, I'm repeating myself, I understand that, but I thought, no, we must go to this because I must meet these people, because I've lived in their village on 2 occasions, and it, you know, on 1 full-time and 1 part-time, I should say about that. The full-time being the house at the top, and the part-time being the house, the cottage at the bottom. But we are looking for another house, not a really big one, because we've reached the age where we don't really. You know, I have to do all the cleaning, so I want to do it. I do apologise for it. It's not the first time she's heard me lie, you know, but I do. But so, you know, if any one of you can move and let us come in, it'd be very nice. No, I don't mean that, but it's. I hope, you know, and it does look upon me, and I'm going to then finish and say, thank you for what you do. It's fully appreciated, I'm so certain, by so many people. But King's Langley is a very, very nice place. And if it has very, very nice people living in it, it only makes it better for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Graham. Graham and Rita are here for the whole of this afternoon, so please have a chat with them, and if you've got any properties available that you think they might be interested in, there's a potential buyer. We're celebrating 50 years, and it's interesting just to think about how Good Neighbours started. And it started in a very cold winter in '63, when people came together to make sure that everyone could cope with the very harsh weather, particularly the old and the vulnerable. And from that, we had an organisation sort of develop, and in those early months, our pioneers received quite a bit of help from the local council, from the parish council. And Jerry Angelini's here this afternoon on behalf of the council, and he's going to talk to us briefly about some of the history of the relationship between the council and Good Neighbours. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jerry Angelini.
Good afternoon. Now, you must wonder why I'm here. Well, it should have been Bob McLean, who is the Deputy Mayor of Decorum at the moment. So obviously his diary is very full, so that's why you've got the Vice Chairman and not the Chairman. Also, just on that line, as he is the Deputy Mayor this year, which means next year he will be the Mayor. And that is the first time we've had a Mayor from King's Langley. Fantastic. There you go. And what am I going to say? Many years ago, I was in the High Street and I bumped into Graham and his wife, and he said to me that, that of all the places they've lived, they've never lived anywhere better than King's Langley. And they would like to end their days in King's Langley. Well, he then moved away. But now he's coming back, so his words have got to be true, haven't they? Anyway, 50 years ago, I was 27. He don't look 77, does he? No. The then parish council put in some money to start up this organisation. What a good thing they did. And what a good place King's Langley is to live. Mainly because the people like yourselves who make it a better place to live. Well done, every single one of you. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, I understand we have a bonus item this afternoon. Mr. Howard Button would also like to say a few words, I believe. So, is that right, Howard? Sorry, Anne Anderson. Beg your pardon. Sorry.
I'm sorry. No problem. Howard is also a lifelong resident of the village, so that's an easy confusion. I was a bit nervous about speaking because how do you follow an England manager and Mr. King's Langley? Given the reputation that my colleague Councillor Angelini has built up over the years, how do you pay tribute to an organisation that's older than you are? I think my mind goes back that I'm sure that my late father, who I think many people in the room will remember, who was a doctor and joined the parish council soon after, was a colleague of Stephen Clark and helped, was surely part of the efforts to build up the organisation. As a borough councillor at the moment, and speaking of Hemel Hempstead rural district councils, it would have been in those days, on behalf of the borough council today, I'd also like to pay tribute to the organisation and what it's achieved and the reputation it gives King's Langley. It is a fantastic village and I'm so proud to live here. I tried moving away, in fact I weekend commuted to Scunthorpe for a couple of years where I believe Graham comes from. And having everything like 2 ironing boards was a real struggle to live with. But I got through it, but I found I just couldn't do it anymore and I just couldn't leave King's Langley. It's a fantastic village and I want to pay tribute to all the volunteers who really put in the work to making this organisation what it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you. Well, 50 years is a long time, and I don't suppose the people who founded it back in those days really could envisage how long it would last and how it might change. I personally don't have a full history about Good Neighbours. I only joined about 10 years ago. At that time, one of the services we were offering was a mobile library. And that went on for a little while, but then it ceased when the local public library decided to offer a similar service, so there was no need for that from us. And recently I was looking through some old papers of the association, and I found that in the early 1980s we were providing firewood to people. So I guess this was back from our very early days when we were making sure that everyone could stay warm in winter, and provision of firewood was something which we did as part of that, and that was still going on in the 1980s. So there have been numerous changes in the services that we've offered over the years. But it does appear to me that one of the reasons that the association has continued and flourished is that it has had a series of excellent chairmen. And they've guided the organisation, helping it to adapt to changing circumstances and to respond to new ideas and opportunities that develop. And I think there are perhaps a small number of former chairmen here this afternoon. I wonder if you've been a former chairman of the association, could you please stand up? We have 3, Jimmy, Harold and Pan. So what I'd like to say to you is, oh, and Stephen's a former chairman too. Thank you very much indeed for the contributions you've made in leading us forward over the years. Now I suspect that if you spoke to any of those former chairmen and you asked about what had happened in Good Neighbours at those times, it wouldn't be long before they used a phrase like, well, it wouldn't have happened unless it was for the committee, or something like that. And the committee has been very, very important to Good Neighbours. The committee is nearly always made up entirely of volunteers from the association, and we've been very fortunate that people who've come forward and worked on the committee, we've had so many talented people and so many people who are motivated to help the association progress. So again, if you've been on the committee, either in the past or a member of the committee at the moment, I wondered if you'd be kind enough just to stand up for a moment, please. Well, thank you all very much indeed. Now, the majority of us here today have been invited because we are, or we have been, volunteers. And as far as Good Neighbours is concerned, volunteers are our lifeblood. Without volunteers, we wouldn't be able to provide any of the help or services which we offer. So thank you all for the help you've given. and for all you continue to do. I do hope you know that your contributions are appreciated, both by the clients and by everyone else in the association, because that's what we are. We're a group of volunteers working together to help others. And as we celebrate 50 years, we say, long may it continue.
Well, madam, I think we've now completed the preparation of your will.
Oh, well, I've just got 2 more requests.
Oh, yes, what are they?
Well, I'd like to be cremated and I'd like to have my ashes scattered over Asda in Watford.
Why over Asda?
Well, then I'll be sure that my daughters will visit me twice a week.
We are celebrating an anniversary, and often when we celebrate anniversaries we think back over times past and things that happen, and often with a sense of gratitude that things turned out the way they did, or people did things that they did. It's often a celebration is accompanied by thoughts of gratitude and thanksgiving. And we mentioned how in the early days Good Neighbours received quite a lot of support from the local parish council, but also the local churches were very encouraging to Good Neighbours when it started and gave a lot of support. So it's quite fitting that a representative of local churches, Reverend Canon David Lawson from All Saints, will now just give us some thoughts on Thanksgiving.
Do you want to use this or just project? No, hold this very first. I want to make sure that Donald can hear me, but he's not there. Thank you, Eric. Just recently, I was rereading a book that appeared a number of years ago called The Healthy Church's Handbook. Obviously, I've got more than a passing interest in what makes a healthy church. And in that book, they identify 8 signs of a healthy church. And then when Anne asked me to say a few words towards the end of this celebration, I began to think, well, what are the signs of a healthy community? And the internet is a wonderful resource. And I looked up various organisations that had done research into what makes a healthy community. And in fact, there are 9 signs of a healthy community. I'm not going to mention all 9 signs, but some of them include creating opportunities for people to volunteer in the community, to encourage as many different organisations and individuals representing different groups to participate in volunteering, to be engaged in supporting the more vulnerable members of a community, and to enable people to become volunteers, to encourage people to volunteer. Obviously, in communities there are people who do paid work, but it's important that people also do voluntary work, and all these aspects help to build up a healthy community. And so I thought, in relation to Good Neighbours, well, actually, Good Neighbours is actually a powerful sign of a healthy community, because some of the signs of a healthy community are to be found within Good Neighbours. So you're not only fulfilling the theory of a healthy community, you're actually delivering in a practical way the signs of a healthy community. So I think that's one of the things to give thanks for, not just all that the Good Neighbours does, but because it is a living sign of a healthy community, and that's something to be hugely grateful for and thankful for. So congratulations to Kings Langley on your 50th birthday, and I hope you continue to grow in strength and continue to be alive and healthy for the next 50 years. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much. Within our ranks, we have a number of people of talents, and one lady of talents is Sheila Abbott, and she has written a poem about good neighbours, an ode. And I think Jenny, if we can find it, is going to recite it for us.
Sorry, I missed my cue. A golden ode. 07790668672. A number well known to me and you. Always manned from 9 till 5, with volunteers waiting to be called to drive. Hello, good neighbours, you hear them say. How may we help you today? You have an appointment with Doctor Who? Of course we'll have you there by 2. Another day we'll be asked a favour. To the hospital, please, my wife's in labour. We've short-notice drivers for such as this, who always are ready and never miss an appointment with doctors, dentists or vets. Yes, vets are included in our destinations when a cat requires immunisations. We have many professions amongst our numbers. Gardeners, painters, builders, plumbers, all are willing to help if able, even if to just move a table. We fitted shelves when required, but broken lamps are not rewired. Well, we have to stay within the law, though DBS checks are a chore. Through all our trials and tribulations, our clients are generous with donations, and these allow us to invite all volunteers to a cheese and wine night, where we can show our appreciation for all their help and consideration. And now we come to celebrate 50 years from that date, when a group of people combined their labours to form what we all call good neighbours. So please, can we now all applaud for the future of this worthwhile cause?
I'm now going to introduce someone who I don't think needs an introduction. Stephen Clark.
Thank you, Eric. Extraordinarily, 2 of the most proudest moments of my life have happened in the last 2 days. The first was that I gave my daughter away in marriage on Friday, and today, the second very proud moment of my life is here today, where we celebrate our 50th anniversary. And I speculate that it's not that often that somebody founds an organisation that turns out to be so successful as this one, and can 50 years later still be there as an active volunteer. And long may I continue to be involved. It's very nice to have you here, Graham, and thank you very much for your kind words. And thank you also to Jerry, and it reminds me of how much support I got from the parish council, of which I was then a member, gave me the financial and moral support to get things going. 50 years to this very day, on the 4th of October 1965, I founded this organisation, and long may it continue to flourish in the way it is now today. When I started, I wasn't that surprised that there was such a warmth and willingness to volunteer, because the village has always had such a good reputation for having good and kind people in its midst. But I do think that we've been helped as an organisation to enhance the reputation of the village even more so by the work that you all do for the community. Now, it's now my pleasure to formally cut the cake. I hope some of you will be able to come and see the way it's been iced with our new logo on it, and I'm now going to take the knife. Now I'm left-handed, so I'll put the microphone in my right hand.
Turn that way, Susan. Turn that way. Turn that way. Oh my goodness! No, come this side. Now, there. There's a choreographer for you. Go. Go. Cut. Right. Thank you, Jerry.
Just one other thing I forgot to say is that we also invited IMP, the Right Honourable Mike Penning, to come, and he's written just to say, unfortunately I'm unable to attend, so I'll be at a conference. I do hope the event goes well, and perhaps if you would like me to visit the group another time, then please don't hesitate to contact me. That was from Mike Penning.